Rap singer Lisa Lopes is free on bond today after being charged in connection with a fire at the home of her boyfriend, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Andre Rison.
Why did TLC hold Arista hostage?
The record?
The record company, Clive Davis, we held them hostage like guns, the whole shebang. Of course, Lisa was the ringleader.
Like, we need to go get our money. I need to know where my MFN money's at.
The terrible secret about Clive Davis and Diddy Lisa, Left Eye died with, was never supposed to come out. Not while Clive was still running labels, not while Diddy still had power, and definitely not while Lisa was still alive.
We've been through our fair share of turmoil and experiences.
But she got too loud, too curious, too close. She crashed Clive Davis's office.
And we have one of the girls acting as security outside of that door, and we said, don't let anybody in or out unless we say so. Okay, so Clive is like, girls, what's going on?
She confronted Diddy in front of Clive.
Tion's cousin walks over, at the time it was a tape, stops the tape, gives it to Puffy and says, TLC's got a meeting with Clive and you got to go. Your meeting's over.
And just weeks later, she was gone. Now, more than 20 years later, the questions are louder than ever. What did Lisa know? And why does it still feel like her death wasn't just an accident? Let's find out. Lisa Nicole, or Left Eye for some of us, was a force of nature in the music industry, with a career that spanned several decades and left a mark on the world of hip-hop and R&B. Born on May 27, 1971 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lisa's journey to stardom was a testament to her unwavering determination and exceptional talent.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Philadelphia. How you doing?
From a young age, Lisa was surrounded by music. Her parents' love for gospel and R&B music provided the soundtrack to her childhood. By the age of 5, she was already showcasing her extraordinary vocal talents in church choirs, a clear sign of the musical powerhouse she would become. In her young adult years, Lisa relocated to Atlanta, a city known for its thriving music scene. Atlanta had already produced many top-name acts, but it was Lisa and her two talented bandmates, Tion T-Boz Watkins and Rosonda CHILLI Thomas, who would put Atlanta on the map in a way no one could have predicted. Their journey began as a trio called Second Nature, with Watkins and Left Eye at the helm. Soon, they were joined by Thomas to form the iconic group TLC, a name derived from the first initial of each member's nickname. Their path to stardom was set in motion when they were discovered at an Atlanta club by none other than the singer Pebbles, who wasted no time in signing them to her label. Under Pebbles' guidance and the wings of Arista's Layface label, managed by superstar producers Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and L.A. Reid, Pebbles' former husband, TLC skyrocketed to fame. Their creative style and flamboyance set them apart, and they made a bold statement by wearing on their colorful, baggy clothes. Their 1992 debut album, Ooh on the TLC Tip, produced 3 major hits that left a mark on the music industry. But while the world focused on their music, Lisa's personal life was beginning to drift into darker, more complex territory. One that would eventually link her to one of the most powerful and controversial figures in hip-hop. During the 90s, before Diddy became the industry giant he is known as today, there were whispers that he and Lisa Left Eye had a brief romantic relationship. It's never been confirmed. No interviews, no public photos, but the rumor keeps popping up, usually from people who were close to the scene. It's the kind of story that sounds too specific to be made up. And like most things in the music industry, the truth was probably buried a long time ago. What people do agree on is that if Diddy and Lisa were together, it didn't last long, and it didn't end on good terms. Back then, Diddy wasn't at the peak of his power. He was still figuring out how to control his image and build his empire. Lisa, on the other hand, was already famous, bold, opinionated, and the wild card in one of the biggest girl groups in the world. She had her own energy, her own mind, and didn't care to play by industry rules. That alone would have made her hard to handle. But Lisa wasn't just hard to handle. She was unpredictable in ways Diddy had likely never experienced before. In 1994, Lisa famously set her boyfriend Andre Rison's mansion on fire, not by accident. They had gotten into a fight. He had allegedly been violent. She came back back home, set fire to his sneakers in the bathtub, and the whole house ended up burning to the ground. It made national headlines. She was charged with felony arson, and instead of denying it, Lisa owned it. She said it came from emotional pain and a breaking point. No PR filter. Compare that to what we're hearing about Diddy now, and the similarities are chilling. A while back, rapper Kid Cudi testified in court that Diddy was responsible for bombing his car.
Cudi, did he do it?
The jurors saw the actual cut, the hole in his Porsche, and then they saw the damage done from that Molotov cocktail where the red interior is ruined and darkened by the fire that started in his car.
Kid Cudi told the court that in 2011, he had briefly dated Cassie Ventura, the same woman Diddy was still involved with at the time. When Diddy found out, things escalated fast. Cudi testified that after Cassie called him in a panic saying Diddy knew about them, he got a phone call from a mutual friend. Diddy had allegedly entered Cudi's Los Angeles home without permission. Cudi raced back home and called Diddy on the way, saying, "Are you in my house?" Diddy allegedly replied, "I'm over here waiting for you." When Cudi arrived, his Christmas gifts had been opened, his dog was locked in the bathroom, and his home security cameras had been tampered with. That was just the beginning. About a month later, in January 2012, Kid Cudi's Porsche was hit with a Molotov cocktail. A hole had been cut in the roof. An explosive was thrown inside. The car's interior was scorched. Prosecutors even showed the jury pictures. Burned leather, melted plastic. Cudi testified that he believed Diddy was behind the bombing, and although Diddy denied involvement in a later conversation, the incident has never been solved, and no one else was ever charged. Here's where the lines start to blur, because Lisa burning down a mansion in 1994 was seen as wild, emotional, maybe even unhinged. But what do you call it when a man with power allegedly sends someone to bomb another artist's car in 2012? What do you call it when that same man is now on trial for racketeering and criminal threats? Lisa was labeled dramatic, Diddy was labeled successful. But when you line the stories up, Lisa setting fire to her boyfriend's house after an abusive altercation, and Diddy allegedly retaliating against Cudi for dating someone he still claimed, the difference is in the coverage, not the behavior. That's why people have started re-examining what really happened between Diddy and Lisa. If they were ever in a relationship, how did it end? And if it ended badly, did it just fizzle out? Or did Lisa get too close to something Diddy didn't want her involved in? There's one story that still circulates. Allegedly, Lisa once showed up unannounced to a spot where Diddy was, maybe a meeting, maybe an event. She wasn't there to party. She was there to talk. Fast, loud, asking names, asking questions. Diddy reportedly froze, didn't argue, didn't yell, he just left. People who witnessed it said she made him uncomfortable in a way they hadn't seen before. After that, it was over. No more phone calls, no more sightings, nothing. It was like she vanished from his orbit. And maybe that was the plan, or maybe it was protection, because Lisa had a way of exposing people. She said things that artists weren't supposed to say. She asked questions executives weren't supposed to answer. And if Diddy sensed that she was the kind of woman who might air him out, maybe not immediately, but eventually, cutting ties quietly would have been the safest move. What's wild is that both of them shared the same emotional volatility, just expressed in different ways. Lisa's was fiery, impulsive, visible. Diddy's, if the allegations are true, was cold, calculated, and vengeful. One set fires in bathrooms. The other may have ordered explosions in driveways. Now, with Cudi's testimony, the dots start to connect. If Diddy was really capable of orchestrating a car bombing and entering someone's house without permission, then walking away from Lisa before things got messy seems tame by comparison. But it also confirms something fans have been wondering for years, that Diddy and Lisa's relationship, however brief, wasn't just a fling, it was a warning. In any case, if Diddy and Lisa ever had a thing, it probably never lasted long, seeing how she once scared him while trying to get to Clive Davis, all for TLC. You see, by the time Crazy Sexy Cool went multi-platinum and pulled in $75 million, the members of TLC, T-Boz, CHILLI, and Left Eye, were driving beat-up cars, had barely any furniture, and were each handed $50,000.
TLC had generated on Crazy Sexy Cool $75 million, and they gave us $50,000 apiece. I was like, what the hell?
That's when everything changed. Left Eye, fresh out of the diversion center after setting her ex's house on fire, had met a new group of associates while locked up. Women who didn't play, ex-cons, big, intimidating, and down to ride. So when Lisa said, let's go get our money, the plan was set in motion. They didn't go through managers. They didn't file lawsuits. They drove straight to New York. Clive Davis, the man behind the label Arista, was at the top of the food chain. And Puffy, still going by that name at the time, just happened to be in the middle of a meeting with Clive when TLC showed up.
And Tion's cousin walks over, at the time it was a tape, stops the tape, gives it to Puffy and says, TLC's got a meeting with Clive and you got to go. Your meeting's over.
TLC's crew spread through the building, snatching plaques, posters, anything with their name on it, and loaded it all into a waiting limo. Their limo driver was the getaway car. One of their girls acted as security outside Clive's office. Nobody got in. Nobody got out. They told Clive they were broke. They told him L.A. Reid was pointing fingers. And then the cops showed up. Clive had a decision to make: press charges and risk headlines, or handle it quietly.
Because the officer was like, is everything okay? Everything okay? And he was like, he looked at us, and that's when we gave him that look, and he was like, girls, why do we need all the security? And come on, girls.
TLC left with no arrests, but soon after the money came, not all of it. It was recoupable, which meant they still didn't see most of it. But the renegotiation started, the label was rattled, and TLC made it clear they weren't just artists, they were fighters. And from that moment on, Diddy knew TLC wasn't the type of act you controlled. They were the kind you ran from. They didn't just scare Clive, they embarrassed Diddy. And years later, CHILLI gave us a clue that the tension between TLC and Diddy ran deeper than anyone realized.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
It was just a joke. Rosie O'Donnell made a crack on live TV, and CHILLI burst out laughing. She laughed harder than anyone else in the room, and the look on her face like she knew something the rest of us didn't. At the time, most people saw it as innocent, a celebrity moment gone viral. But once you start connecting the dots, who CHILLI used to date, where Usher came from, and how close he really was to Diddy, that laugh doesn't feel random anymore. Because CHILLI dated Usher for years, and Usher, at just 14 years old, had been sent to live with Diddy in New York by Layface Records. He called it Puffy Flavor Camp.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
What exactly did he see?
Hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, people were already talking. And when CHILLI and Usher got together, it wasn't just romance. It was proximity to one of the most powerful and allegedly dangerous men in music. And the question that's haunted fans ever since: what did CHILLI see or hear while dating Usher during his Diddy years? See, this wasn't just pillow talk. This was a woman dating a man who'd lived in Diddy's house, partied with Diddy's crew, and was hospitalized after a situation involving Diddy.
Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital.
There were rumors of an STD. There were stories that Kim Porter found tapes. There were claims that Diddy bragged about it all. And now, legal documents mention an unnamed artist with a Vegas residency and a Super Bowl performance. That matches Usher. And if CHILLI knew what was going on behind the scenes, if Usher told her everything, it explains why she suddenly backed off from both Diddy and Usher. She stopped speaking on him. She stayed away from Diddy's world, and she never looked back, because what she may have learned wasn't just heartbreaking, it was dangerous. And in interviews since then, CHILLI never directly confirms what she saw, but she always makes one thing clear. Sometimes you're supposed to be with people for a reason, but not a lifetime. And if Usher was carrying trauma from what happened at Diddy's, CHILLI may have seen exactly what it did to him. Up close, the cheating, the emotional distance, the erratic behavior. And now, after everything that's come out, some people don't even blame him. They blame Diddy. Because if Diddy exploited Usher and Usher passed that pain forward, then CHILLI was a witness to all of it. And Diddy knew that. That's why her laugh at Rosie's joke hit different. Because maybe that wasn't just a punchline. Maybe it was payback. But CHILLI wasn't the only one Diddy and Clive had to worry about. If anyone in TLC truly scared them, it was Left Eye. Lisa Left Eye wasn't just the wild card. She was the ringleader. And when she found out the group had made $75 million while each member got paid just $50,000,
Of course, Lisa was the ringleader.
Like, we need to go get our money. I need to know where my MFM money's at.
She snapped. What happened next was borderline criminal. Lisa gathered a crew of ex-con women she met while locked up in a diversion center. Big women, loud women, women who looked like they'd done time and didn't care about going back. Then she called CHILLI and T-Boz and said, "We're driving to New York." When they flew in, met in Manhattan, and walked straight into Arista Records with a plan: get their money or shut it down. They kicked Diddy out of his own meeting. They stormed every floor of the building, ripping down anything with TLC on it. Awards, plaques, promo posters. One of the girls stood guard outside Clive Davis's office, refusing to let executives in or out. They even had a getaway limo waiting out front. Clive let it go and told his team to start renegotiating. But the fear, that lingered. Because Lisa wasn't just about contracts and money. She wanted answers. She wanted to know who had their money and what was really going on behind the scenes. Shortly after, she made one of the boldest career moves of her life, signing with Death Row. Nobody could believe it. TLC's most outspoken member had just joined the most dangerous label in music. And right when it looked like Lisa was about to expose everything, from the money trail to industry secrets, the unexpected happened. You see, after the standoff with Clive Davis, TLC moved on, but not all of them stayed in the spotlight. Left Eye was different. She never let things slide. And when the group started seeing more money, Lisa still wasn't satisfied. She wanted to know how it all got that bad in the first place, how they went multi-platinum and ended up broke. She wanted her own label, her own direction, and most of all, her own answers. She wasn't walking away from music, but she was clearly searching for something bigger than awards or sales. That's when she decided to leave the US and spend time in Honduras. She called it a spiritual retreat.
It's gonna be Left Eye the cameraman.
I'm getting my skills on as a professional photographer.
I never shut the camera on. The camera followed me as well.
She brought a small film crew and said she wanted to document her journey, not as a celebrity, but as a person trying to understand herself. During those final weeks, Lisa was reflective but unsettled. She talked a lot about energy, about spirits, and about something she couldn't quite explain. She felt like she was being watched. She believed something was following her. Just a few days before the crash, there was a strange and tragic moment. Lisa's vehicle accidentally struck a young boy walking on the side of the road. He didn't survive. His last name was also Lopes. Lisa was visibly shaken, and she told the camera that she believed the spirit meant to take her, not the boy. She wasn't joking. After that incident, her mood shifted even more. The footage shows her quieter, more tense. She kept going with the trip, but something clearly weighed on her. Then came the crash. The van she was in swerved off the road, flipped, and Lisa was killed on impact. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Everyone else in the vehicle survived. The official report listed it as a tragic accident. The road was narrow. The driver was avoiding another car. But for the people who had been following Lisa's story, especially those who knew what she was working on, the timing didn't sit right. Lisa was planning a new solo album. She had business plans outside of TLC, and she was in the middle of openly speaking about how badly the group had been treated by the industry, especially by Lopes and Arista. She was also one of the only members bold enough to confront Clive Davis directly. In her last interviews and taped footage, Lisa sounded more independent than ever. She wasn't just focused on music. She wanted ownership, real answers, and accountability for how much money had been taken from them. Her death, caught partially on camera, closed the chapter before she could fully tell her side. It's been more than 2 decades, and fans still wonder if Lisa knew too much or was getting too close to something people didn't want public. Officially, there was no foul play. No charges were ever filed. But the questions around her death haven't gone away. Lisa's legacy isn't just tied to TLC's success. It's tied to how fearless she was in calling out what wasn't right, from their contracts to their payouts to the silence from the people at the top. She wasn't the easiest person to control, and by the end of her life, she wasn't answering to the industry anymore. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.